saying which says that wit beyond measure is a man's greatest treasure. When you think of going above some limit, you come to know that you can achieve more skies. So today my topic is one of the research topics which recently has come into being. People didn't know about it. People said it was science fiction. People said that it's not at all possible what you are saying, you are just a drunk or moron. But now people have developed technologies which have made it possible. Before going into details, let me ponder over something. This you see here is one of those diseases which affects liver as usual, obviously, but this disease, if it is affected in a very great stage, the person has very least chances of survival. The disease, as you see, is liver cirrhosis. One more. This is the disease of kidney, known as polycystic kidney. Same like cirrhosis, if this disease is affected in a human in a very great stage, you can't save him until and unless you give a new kidney or you supply a new kidney to him. And we see that kidney transplants are there. Let's see the current stage of kidney transplant. The kidney waiting list in United States, as you can see, has increased gradually according to the year. Because the person who are agreeing to donate their kidney has decreased gradually. People, I don't know why, but they don't want to donate their own organs. So the waiting list of the patients is increasing, but the number of kidney being donated is decreasing. So we have a very high number of patients waiting for a kidney to be implanted in their body. Or you can go for carcinoma of lung. This disease is affected when people do heavy drinking, heavy smoking, and after some time it gets into such a big addiction that they are not able to leave it. And as the stage increases, person dies a very painful death. Or the most common and the most dangerous, which I say, is brain tumor. Once this has affected, even if you do a neurosurgery, the chances of survival or the success of the surgery is very less. So all these patients who are waiting for the slow, sure and painful death, is there a remedy where we can save those persons? So my people, here I put on my topic. This is organ printing. You take a cell, a healthy cell from the organ which is infected, put the healthy cell in a culture media, you culture the cells, you grow more cells, take the cells in a sphere, put it in a printer, take a gel, print the cells layer by layer on the gel, you get a full 3D structure organ which is functional. This organ you can again implant back into the diseased organs, the diseased person's body, and you find that the cells, because it is taken from own body, there is no rejection at all, and that functional organ can be implanted back into the patient. So this, the topics in which I will be discussing it: what is organ printing, the procedure, the advantages of doing it, the obstacles which are facing this, and the future prospects, of course. Let's go one by one. So organ printing is an automatic process. All you need is a machine, some bunch of cells, a human finger to press the button, and it will go automatically. It is computer aided because wherever manual support comes, the level of precision goes low. So this process, organ printing, which has been developed, is purely robotic or computer aided. What we do is layer by layer deposition, as I told, of living and biologically relevant materials. It can be a cell, it can be a specific modified tissue, it can be some of the enzymes, it can be some receptors, some antibiotics, whatever. You can print anything on the surface with a single purpose of rapid manufacturing. When I say rapid manufacturing, let me put an example. What do you think, how many copies of Times of India is printed in one day in India? Have a guess. Simple guess. How many? Million, trillion, thousand, 1 crores, millions. So let's be precise. It is 12.6 million copies of Times of India per day. So imagine 12.6 million artificial liver printed per day. Means 12.6 million liver cirrhosis patient can be treated in one day. So this process is having rapid manufacturing with a single aim, manufacturing of functional human organ. Amazing technology, isn't it? you don't at all want an interest in it, you can say, what the hell is it? Okay. So let's print. Dr. Vladimir Mironov is the HOD of MUSC Bioprinting Science Center of University of South Carolina. He is one of the pioneer engineers who started this project in the late 90s, 1999. And from then onwards, he has induced many gel, many types of cell tissues, many types of new techniques in which we can safely do this process. And he has been one of the major brains behind the process of organ printing. It was his idea that if we can print a paper, some letters on a paper, we can also print some cells on a gel and we can create an organ. So it was his idea who brought about this idea of organ printing. His process includes 3 substages known as pre-processing, processing, post-processing. Whatever the complexity it may look, the simple idea behind it was you take the cell from a human body, put the data in a computer, the data will be then transformed onto a printer, the printer will read the data and accordingly it will print the organ. Simple idea, simple thought, but a great leap. So let's start one by one. Pre-processing, it's also known as pre-conditioning. Before printing an organ, the main thing you need to know is that you have to create an idea what you have to print. So it shouldn't come that you are starting to print a kidney and you end up with a liver. It shouldn't be like that. So for printing a kidney, or for printing a heart, or for printing a liver, first of all you need is a blueprint of the organ. So the blueprint, if we consider organ, the organ has 2 types of cells. One is the vascular structure of the cell present inside. Second is the total whole outer covering or cell tissue of the cell, what we call. So one by one, the vascular structure, the blueprint creation has been done in 3 types. First of all, it was that the reconstruction of the histological slides. You take slide by slide histological tissue and then construct them in 3D. This reconstruction gave a better resolution of the organ, a better idea, but the main disadvantage was that if you have to get a histological slide, first you have to kill the patient, take the organ out and then start taking histological sections. So patients don't like that because after that, what's the use of a new organ? So the next step was you take an anatomical model which has already been studied and printed by many anatomists. They take that model, they study that. Along with that, they put their own dye injection technique, what we call. They inject some dyes into the vascular tissue and they get a very crude idea of what the vascular tissue is. Combine these both and we get the blueprint for the vascular tissue. This was for the vascular tissue. Next going for the outer cell. An outer cell or the cell mass of the organ, we have various techniques like ultrasound, like CAT scan, like MRIs are there, various organ that bioimaging techniques are there. All these techniques give us a faint idea of what the outer cell mass looks like. So with the idea of the outer cell mass and with the idea of the inner vascular tissue, we combine them both. The outer cell mass idea and the inner vascular tissue, we combine them both, we get what the blueprint of a cell looks like. This blueprint, the data, is then transferred onto the computer and voila, we get the blueprint of the organ. For example, I have taken the blueprint of the heart. This blueprint is just the faint idea or the framework or the cast in which we are going to print the organ. So the next step which comes is processing or actual printing. The things needed for processing is the bioprinter, obviously. You need a printer in which you will print the organ. The cell mass, the thing which you will print, the cell mass. The ground substance on which the cells will be printed. And the most important, the human finger for pressing the button of the machine. Let's go one by one. As we see, bioprinter has not been a major problem because as the technology has advanced, as the physics in the field has advanced, we can see various types of bioprinters which has been evolved. One is this SkyPU, evolved in late 90s, 1999. After that, Tirix came. The latest is EnvisionTech. EnvisionTech is the latest bioprinter which is totally robot aided. You don't have to do anything. There is no manual support. You have to just fill in the cartridges, put the cells extra, put some gel extra, put the data into the computer, and rest everything is just a one button press away. This is one of the latest EnvisionTech. And Niatco, this is one of the printer which has been more commercially used, Because this will be very surprising to know, this is just a modification of your home inkjet printer. The inkjet printer which you have in your home, the ink cartridge which you have, they replace the ink cartridge with a new type of ink called as bio ink, which I will tell you afterwards. This bio ink is containing only cells and the hydrogel, which is thermoreversible gel, liquid when we put, and after some time it solidifies, so thermoreversible gel, along with the cells, and modified in such a way that this cartridge can be printed along with the gel, and they got Neatco. So it is very easy to get because it is easily modifiable inkjet printer. So this is more commercially used by a company, Organovo, which is continuously now trying to do organ printing. Now the methods of doing what we do. First of all, we take a bioprinter. We take, as I told, a cell. Two types of cell addition can be done. One is we put cell by cell on the gel. That is what I told in Neatco. This technique is at a speed of 6,000 drops per second, with per drop of gel, per drop of ink what we put, per drop will be containing only one cell at a time. This is very long procedure because printing one cell at a time, you know how many millions of cells is needed for one organ. So printing cell by cell is very long procedure, but still the printer is printing at 6,000 cells per minute, per second. So you get a very fast rate of printing and you can complete the whole work in 3 days. Means millions and trillions of cells can be printed in just 3 days. After that, the other technique which people evolved was that why to put cell by cell? They took 30,000 to 10,000 to 30,000 cells. They put everything in a one cell mass. And as you know, there's a concept in cell, there's a process in cell which is known as embryonic tissue fluidity. This concept is proving that the embryonic cell which is printed, the embryonic cell when put together, they will combine together and fuse to form a bigger mass. So they combined all these cells, formed a bigger mass, put it inside a sphere, and each molecule of sphere they used as a new ink. This is what I call the earlier bio ink. This bio ink, see, as you can see here, each sphere is containing 30 to 10,000 to 30,000 cells. These cells were printed on a hydrogel. The hydrogel which we know is a thermoreversible gel. It is liquid at the time when you do the printing, and after some time it gets solidified. As you know, Revati ma'am just took the class which said about microcellulose membrane and agar culture. Same like that, it is liquid in the form when we do the printing, and after some time we solidify it. And once the cell has formed a ring, once the cell has fused, whatever shape we have put, you just heat it again, the thermoreversible gel will again liquefy, the gel will move off and you get a fresh layer of cell. Very simple technique. So after this, as you can see, layer by layer the cells are put in a sheet or a ring or whatever. After the first layer is printed, you put another layer of gel, you put another layer of cell. They will fuse again. When you have printed the whole cartridge or the whole tube what you want, you just heat it again, all the gel will move off and you will get a complete tube. A tube of printed cell. But I told the concept of embryonic tissue fluidity. The printing, as you can see, this is done in Neatco, one drop at a time, 6,000 drops per minute. This is the enlarged tube. So once you got the full tube, next is simple. You have to just join the tubes one with other, complex the thing more in the shape of what type of organ you want, complex it much more with containing the artery specific or venule specific or the tissue cell specific or the secretory cell specific, whatever specificity you want is specified like that. Put the whole thing in a bioreactor. Now comes the step, the third step, what I call post-processing. Post-processing is needed. Why? Because the cell which we have printed is in a viscoelastic form. Means viscoelastic and a fluid form. The cell which is in embryonic form, it is not that much solid in nature. So we can't take that whole cell as it is because it will just melt in our hands. Because they are small cell packs. They are very fragile in nature. So if you handle it in a raw matter, they won't survive at all. So you have to put it in an accelerated tissue maturation machine that is known as a bioreactor. This is an extra point which nowadays we are doing before printing an organ. After completion of the printing, you take the whole organ what you have printed and then we do the modeling of the stuff. Now modeling is not such a bad idea because Watson and Crick did it and they got a Nobel Prize. So people are doing the modeling so that the model which has been created, you don't need again and again blueprint making of the organ. The earlier blueprints which are made, They don't need to be made again and again. Once you have got a model for the organ, you just place the concept of this model into the data of the model into the computer, then you can print more copies of the organ without making the original blueprint. So the modeling is also done nowadays, but once it has been, the process has started in a very frequent manner, the modeling will not be done at a very large scale. But nowadays it is in a starting level, so modeling is done. So post-processing, as I said, the tissue which we have got, see, here you can see a very pink line. This pink is the tissue which we have printed, but very fragile in nature. So what we do, we put a medium, full machine is known as bioreactor, perfusion bioreactor to be precise. What it contains is tissue maturation factors along with nutrient growth media and a controlled environment. The viscoelastic fluid nature of the tissue, once it is put in a wet media, the maturation factors perfuse into the tissue, that's why it's called a perfusion bioreactor. The perfusion inside the tissue causes the maturation of the tissue, that is conversion of viscoelastic fluid to a elastic solid, which is the normal nature of the cell, normal nature of an organ. So after this perfusion, what we do is we do a non-invasive biomonitoring. It is nothing, it's just a stupid name. The thing is that you just open the bioreactor again and again, you see that there's a probe which is not at all, it is made in such a way that it will not destroy the cell which has been printed. You take the probe, you put it into the cell, you see that whether it has matured or not. So and this whole process is known as non-invasive biomonitoring. So once that non-invasive biomonitoring process has finished its job, you get a full printed organ, and this organ can then be transplanted into the needy patients. The examples which have been done by people, it is, as you can see, is the heart wall which has been printed. This is a tissue graft or a skin graft, as I told, and this is a urinary bladder graft. As you can see, you may think that what's the disease which is caused in a urinary bladder. Think of a person who lacks a urinary bladder, or think of a human body which lacks a urinary bladder. As soon as you drink some water or you get a small sensation of urination, there's no space for temporary collection of urine in your body. So you'll feel that your clothes are getting wet. So urinary bladder is needed by the body. And if urinary bladder is not that much needed, you think of a body without a rectum. As soon as you eat something after 3 hours, you can't sit. So every organ has its own specificity and it is needed in the body. So for those persons whose urinary bladder or uterus, whatever, it got prolapsed, they printed a new urinary bladder. Before going to next step, I want to show you the video of the process. This is a mobile print, so I couldn't get the clarity for it.
My name is Dr. Forgach. In the future, we'll be able to harness nature's ability to form organs and build our own.
Dr. Forgach and his lab are pioneering a radical way of building new internal organs. They're creating the organs cell by cell, literally printing copies of the original organs nature gave us.
Organ printing sounds really like the ultimate science fiction.
This technology is considered the future of tissue engineering. It's based on the fact that a cluster of human cells, what Dr. Forgach calls bioink, behaves just like a liquid. When placed next to one another, the clumps will flow together and fuse, forming layers or other shapes.
These are the bioink particles. Each of them composes about 10 to 30,000 cells.
To build 3D structures like organs, Forgach and his team use a printer to assemble the human cells into the desired shape. It's similar to how an inkjet printer produces words. Cells survive the printing process well.
This is the bioprinter.
Your printer can't assemble solid objects, let alone a human organ. But this one will. The printer creates a sheet of cell-friendly biopaper. Then it prints out the living cell clusters onto the paper, drop by drop. Once in place, nature takes over. The cell clusters fuse to each other, creating more complex tissue structures.
Fusion of the
We
cells.
cannot control every detail of the process, but it turns out that this is not necessary because the biological material, by its fundamental nature, is able to self-organize.
As each layer is completed, another layer of cell clusters is added.
We'll build the first story, then we'll build the second story, and we'll build the third story. And that's how we get to the skyscraper.
Eventually, the biopaper separating the layers dissolves, and the individual layers of cells fuse together.
And that's the way we build three-dimensional structures.
Since cells from any organ can be put through this printing process, Forgatch foresees using this technique to replace any damaged organ. And since the organ would be printed from your cells, there would be little chance of rejection.
No rejection at all.
Imagine someone who has a bypass surgery. That person is living with a heart which is not fully functional. So I can envision printing sheets of cardiac tissue we can attach to the damaged heart. Will I be able to replace my liver because I'm a heavy drinker? Will I be able to replace my lungs because I'm a heavy smoker? Well, my first advice is don't be a heavy smoker. But having said that, of course, it is quite possible this technology will be useful within one's lifetime. Why can't we imagine that at some point when you need to replace a damaged organ, you are rolled out of the operating theater with the new organ that was printed into your body? I think that what was science fiction 60 years ago is close to reality today.
What was called science fiction centuries ago is close to reality now. So saying that, let's move. You have seen that the cells which were printed, they were taken from the donor's own body. So what we see that the cells, after being implanted into the body, they not at all reject because they are own body cells, and the body cells which are present already, they accept them as their old friend. There's not at all a chance of rejection. That's the major advantage of organ printing. Saying that, let's move to the advantages. As I said, the tissue which we form is replicating the function. The tissue taken from the body, after it is printed into the form of an organ, after being implanted back into the donor, the tissue is functioning as a full functioning organ. And the most important, nil rejection, because it's taken from one's own body, so after being implanted there will be not at all rejection. Now this and another criteria which is coming. If we have ever known, for creating a drug, we spend millions and millions of rupees for creating a single drug for a disease. But after creating such a very costly drug, we have to test it on animal sources first. After that only we get the permission from the government to test it on a human cell. Because human is very, very precious. You can't test on a living human just like that. You put some kachra, you may take some sambar and rasam from food court, you may say that it's a new drug, and you inject into the body of a living human. He will die at the very moment. So human body is very precious, and before doing the testing on human, you have to do it on animal tissue. But you see that once the drug has been accepted in the animal tissue, when it is applied to the human body, still he dies. So this is because that the tissue of the animal is different from that of the tissue of the human. So what we do that, after doing this printing, we create a mini liver. We say that, okay boss, take this. Whatever drug, whatever sambar you have prepared, you first test it on this tissue. If it is acceptable by this tissue, then surely it will be acceptable by the human tissue. Because this tissue resembles that of a human tissue, a functional organ. So we can get a faster, accurate drug testing with very less cost for creating the drug. Because all that animal sources can be avoided, we can directly test it on a human source. Grafting of a non-generative tissue. Till now, those grafting which were not at all possible, like nerve grafting, we see that if there is a gap in the cut end of 3 centimeters between the two ends of the nerve, you can't create another nerve because they won't grow at all. Because the property of the nerve and heart cell, whatever it is said that you are born with millions and millions of heart cell and nerve cell at your birth, and then that is it. You don't get new replicating cells of nerve and heart. So if there is a damage in these types of non-replicative tissues, the person is sure to die if you are not providing it with new healthy supply of the cells. So we can do grafting of such non-regenerative tissues. You create that part of cell, you print that part of cell, you put it, implant it into the body of the patient, and the patient will survive. Modification of the tissue, this is one of the points which I included, which is by one of my thinking, when I say that in NASA, which I recently came to know, NASA scientists are trying to embalm the body of human with, instead of the keratin layer, they are trying to put carbon filament with titanium coating on the skin. So this makes the human, sounds weird, right? This makes the human friction resistant and also safe from the UV radiations of sun. As we know that our ozone layer is depleting day by day. So they are trying to find a way that after the ozone layer has been depleted, is there a way that we can make the current human society to survive? So what they found out is that if you embalm the body with a UV radiation resistant thing, you can save that human from UV radiations. So NASA scientists are trying to do that. It's just in a very preliminary stage, but they found out that there's a property in carbon known as tetravalency. The tetravalency enables a carbon atom to join with another carbon atom in a 4D form. This property has been used here. The carbon filaments are being tried to embalm on they take out the keratin layer and they try to embalm it on the skin which is present. As you know, the skin is also containing carbon atoms. So that carbon filament, whatever we are putting, it embalms on the body and creates a new skin for our body. So this will make you UV resistant. And as of course it's well said, immortality of human will not die, because as soon as you are trying to age, as you are aging, you become Dadi Nani of 90 years, you take out all your organs, you throw it out, you say, okay boss, give me new organs, and you will be revived again, and you will come back in a new young form. So this will bring an immortality to human beings. Who is this? She pregnant. She's way more beautiful. One more guess. Sudha Chandran, okay. She is a Bharatanatyam dancer, a classical dancer, but there's a peculiarity about her that she dances on an artificial limb. Very, enthusiastic girl. Her wit, as I said the earlier line, the wit beyond measure is a man's greatest treasure. Her wit is making her to dance till now. And she has been envisionist for other people also, making other people to come over there, this handicapness and other diseases. Dr. Pramod K. Sethi, one of the envisionists who started the artificial limb, this was originated, one of the great ideas which originated from Rajasthan, and the thing was called Jaipur foot. Now this is one of the very crude methods of how can we do organ printing. The organ which we have taken is not fully, it's not completely resembling the tissue of the body. It's just an artificial fiber with some carbon filaments down, and you create an artificial limb with some joints. You attach it to the amputated leg, and the person can walk if the amputation is not high above the thigh. So this has become a very useful stuff for many of the handicapped people. And this was the starting, or maybe it can be said that Vladimir Mironov thought the idea of organ printing after seeing this Jaipur foot. So if there's a Nobel Prize given for organ printing, it will not be for Vladimir Mironov, but it should be for Pramod K. Sethi. The obstacles of organ printing. Loss of vascularity. Actually, there are a number of obstacles, but the major obstacles I put it down. The loss of vascularity means that we have seen that after printing an organ above the thickness of 2 inches, the vascularity of the tissues beneath is lost. The blood supply is not able to reach up to the tissue below the level of 2 inches. So that's the hindrance which we have to cope up, because for creating a vascular tissue, all we can do is that we create a canal inside the organ, and we just believe that it will turn up into a new blood vessel. But we see that the vascularity is lost after 2 inches thickness. So that has to be crossed. Secretional ability. As we know, many organs also help in the endocrine function of the body, like suprarenal glands or liver. So it is seen that the secretional ability of the hormones or enzymes, whatever it is secreting, it is 50% or 60% lesser than that of the original organ. That also has to be increased, because there are various external factors affecting the secretion capacity of that organ. The cost of the procedure is still high, because government has not yet came into the being. They have not yet put their hands into it, so the thing is still in private mode. Whatever we have to spend the money, it is still high. So the cost of procedure is still high. Implantation technology. Even after creating a full functioning organ, there is still no surgical procedure where we can say 100% success. This organ printed can be easily, or for sure, it can be implanted into your body. So the lack of those operational techniques or implementation technology is still lacking. Lack of awareness about the techniques, what's going on, what's going to happen nowadays, what's going on, because I don't think so many of you won't be knowing about this topic before I found it out. And I also came to know it through Discovery Channel. So the lack of awareness is still there. Saying that the future prospects of bioprinting, Michael Dell, the HOD or the entrepreneur of Dell Incorporation, he was asked about how do you imagine your company in 2024. He started his life to become a doctor, but he came into software field, created a big company called as Dell, earning more than $14 billion per year. And his answer is that I certainly think by the time there will be a whole new industry, if you combine the physical sciences and biological sciences, he doesn't know what it looks like, but it is an incredible opportunity to change medicine and health. So he is still saying that I should have been a doctor rather than a software entrepreneur. So this brings us to a point that such big persons think that the medical field can increase gradually and drastically. There is a chance for this technology also to increase. And it is said correctly because one of the major magazines called as Business 2.0, it called organ printing along with Human Genome Project as one of the 6 technologies that are going to change the world. This is one of the major business outlook looking magazines, and said that it's one of those technologies which are going to change world drastically. Seen from which movie? Terminator, right? See lots of movies, third socialist one. So we saw a creature somewhat like this, somewhat looking like this. So from the knowledge of your last 35 minutes, do you think this thing is possible? Is this possible? Because this movie was termed under science fiction, and they made this organism and story related to that. But do you think this is possible? Yeah. It is purely possible unless and until you are given the right technology to create it. This thing is possible, and in future, this will be a thing which will be coming in when you are sleeping and come to your bed and shoot you in your bed. So beware of this. Having said that, obviously, welcome to the future, where whatever types of disease in the organ you have, you print an organ accordingly with a bioprinter, and you get a whole new organ. And sorry to say, man, last time also I was expecting sir, and this time also he will come. So thank you, sir. Thank you very much.